The silent terror. In the dark expanse of space, there were whispers. Whispers of an ancient warrior, a creature so terrifying that entire civilizations trembled at its name. This being, known only as the Warbringer, had a reputation that spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Wherever it went, destruction followed. The Warbringer did not need armies to conquer. Its mere presence was enough to turn once thriving planets into barren wastelands. It was said that no one had ever survived facing this creature. No one had dared to challenge it. And so, when the Warbringer's ship appeared in orbit around a new world, Earth, the atmosphere shifted from hope to dread. News of the Warbringer's arrival spread quickly. Governments, military forces, and scientists gathered in fear, knowing that this ancient being was unlike any enemy they had ever encountered. Earth had always been a relatively peaceful planet, hidden from the galactic powers that roamed the universe. But now, humanity's secret was out. The Warbringer had found them. The Earth's leaders tried to remain calm, but the truth was undeniable. Even the most advanced military forces in the world couldn't stand against the Warbringer's power. It was a creature of pure destruction, a force of nature that no one could control. The Warbringer's ship hovered over Earth like a dark cloud, casting a long shadow that seemed to swallow the hope from everyone beneath it. People watched the skies in fear. They knew that a war was coming, one that they would lose before it even began. The streets were empty, and the air was thick with tension. Cities that had once been bustling with life now seemed like ghost towns, the silence broken only by the distant sound of sirens and the hum of military jets in the air. The Warbringer had arrived, and no one knew how to stop it. In the midst of all this fear, there was a man who didn't share the panic of those around him. Lieutenant Jackson, a seasoned soldier who had faced battles across the globe, stood in his apartment, looking out over the city. His eyes were filled with determination, but also a strange sense of clarity. He knew that Earth had never faced an enemy like this before, but he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to the Warbringer than what people were saying. The Warbringer's reputation was well known among the military elite. Stories of its battles had spread across the galaxy, and every race feared it. The creature was said to be indestructible, an unstoppable force that had wiped out countless civilizations without breaking a sweat. No one knew where it came from, only that it had appeared in countless galaxies, leaving only death in its wake. But Lieutenant Jackson had always been the one to look for answers, even when others had given up. While the world prepared for its inevitable doom, Jackson's mind raced with thoughts of what could be done. His superiors ordered him to stand down, to wait and watch the Warbringer's descent, but he refused. Jackson wasn't going to sit idly by while his world was destroyed. He knew there had to be more to the Warbringer's story. There had to be a way to fight back. It was then that Jackson received a strange message. The message was brief, but it sent a chill down his spine. It was a warning, but not one that the Warbringer had sent. It was from an unknown source, someone who claimed to have knowledge of the Warbringer's past. They said that the creature was not invincible, that it had a weakness, one buried deep within its history. Jackson's instincts told him that this was the key to defeating the Warbringer, but he had no idea how to find the source of this mysterious message. He needed answers. He needed a way to connect with whoever had sent this warning before it was too late. Time was running out, and the Warbringer was descending closer to Earth every minute. As he made his way to the military command center, Jackson couldn't help but feel a sense of urgency. The planet's fate was hanging in the balance. The Warbringer's descent was not just an attack. It was a message to humanity, a warning that Earth was no longer hidden from the universe. It was no longer a peaceful planet. The Warbringer was here to destroy everything, and no one knew how to stop it. But Jackson wasn't going to give up. He had seen too much in his life to be afraid now. If there was one thing he knew, it was that humans were not powerless. No matter how great the enemy, no matter how terrifying the odds, humans had always found a way to fight back. And that was exactly what he was going to do. Jackson's mind raced with plans and strategies. He knew he needed to act fast, but he didn't have all the answers. He had only one clue to follow: the message. The warning that there was more to the Warbringer than met the eye. If he could find the person who had sent it, maybe, just maybe, humanity could stand a chance. But as he walked through the command center, a cold realization struck him. The Warbringer wasn't just a creature of destruction. It was something more, something ancient and powerful. And humanity had no idea what it was truly up against. The countdown had begun. The Warbringer was coming, and Lieutenant Jackson was the only one who believed that there was a chance to stop it. As the minutes passed, Jackson's resolve hardened. The world was scared, but he wasn't. He had something the Warbringer didn't: hope. And with that hope, Jackson would find a way to shatter the terror that had gripped Earth. The battle for humanity's survival had just begun. The days passed in a blur as humanity waited, helplessly watching the sky. The Warbringer's ship hovered over Earth, its dark silhouette casting a chilling shadow over the entire planet. Military forces, once proud and powerful, now scrambled to make sense of the situation. All attempts to communicate with the Warbringer had failed, and every tactic that had been devised to combat it seemed useless. The creature was untouchable. The world had no choice but to brace itself for what was about to come. But Lieutenant Jackson wasn't like the others. While the world trembled in fear, he was hard at work, piecing together the mysterious message he had received. The warning had said that the Warbringer had a weakness, something that could be exploited. But what was it? Jackson had no answers yet, only a vague sense that this ancient warrior, though powerful, was not invincible. He spent countless hours in his small office at the military command center, going over old reports, analyzing alien encounters, and studying every scrap of information that could help him understand the Warbringer. He had to find something, anything, that would give him a chance. He couldn't sit idly by and let Earth be destroyed. His colleagues in the command center were becoming increasingly frustrated with Jackson's obsession. Most had already accepted that the Warbringer's arrival meant humanity's doom. The idea of resisting was laughable. The Warbringer had crushed empires and destroyed worlds. It was impossible to believe that anything could stand against it. But Jackson refused to give up. If there was even the slightest chance that the Warbringer could be defeated, he would find it. One evening, while going through old military archives, Jackson stumbled upon a piece of information that caught his attention. It was a report from a long-forgotten war, a conflict in a distant galaxy. It described an ancient warrior, not unlike the Warbringer, who had been stopped by an unlikely force: human ingenuity. The report mentioned a weapon, a unique armor designed to counter the warrior's strength. However, the weapon had been lost to time, its whereabouts unknown. Jackson couldn't help but wonder if the Warbringer had once been defeated before. Could the same tactic be used again? Driven by this new possibility, Jackson arranged a meeting with the High Command, presenting the idea that the Warbringer might not be the unstoppable force everyone believed it to be. He argued that humanity's best chance of survival lay in discovering the weapon and the secret to defeating the alien warrior. At first, the generals and military leaders dismissed his theory. They had no time for wild theories. They needed action. But Jackson wasn't easily deterred. He pushed further, insisting that Earth's only hope was to act quickly and find whatever ancient weapon could turn the tide in humanity's favor. If he could uncover the right information, he believed that humanity could stand a fighting chance. The Warbringer might not be as invincible as it seemed. Finally, after hours of deliberation, the military agreed to let Jackson lead a special task force to investigate the possibility of recovering the ancient weapon. The pressure was enormous. The task force would be small, but it was humanity's best hope. Jackson felt the weight of the responsibility on his shoulders. Failure was not an option. He gathered a group of soldiers, each one hand-picked for their skills and experience. Among them was Sergeant Ramirez, an expert in alien technology; Corporal Morgan, a seasoned strategist, and Lieutenant Zhang, a master of stealth and infiltration. Together, they would travel to a secret location, a hidden research facility buried deep beneath the Earth's surface. It was a facility long abandoned, left to rot after an earlier attempt to study alien technology. But Jackson believed it held the key to stopping the Warbringer. It was the only lead they had. As they prepared for the mission, Jackson's thoughts were consumed with doubt. Could the weapon they were seeking even still exist? What if it had been destroyed long ago? He shook the thoughts from his mind. He couldn't afford to think like that. Humanity was counting on them. The Warbringer would not wait, and Jackson could not afford to waste another second. The team traveled in secrecy, using military channels to avoid detection. The Warbringer's ship was still in orbit, a constant reminder of the impending destruction that loomed over them. But Jackson held on to one belief. If humanity could find the right weapon, they could shift the balance. They could fight back. The journey to the facility was long and dangerous. The underground base was heavily guarded by automated security systems, many of which had long since become outdated and malfunctioned. Still, they encountered resistance. Jackson's team fought their way through the facility, utilizing the element of surprise and their specialized skills to overcome each obstacle. They eventually reached the heart of the facility, where the weapon was rumored to be stored. The air was thick with dust, and the walls seemed to hum with the memories of a time long past. In the center of the room lay an old locked vault, just as the old report had described. Jackson and his team stood in front of it, breathless from the journey and the battle. They knew that this was the moment that could change everything. Jackson took a deep breath and activated the security system. For a moment, there was silence. Then, with a loud click, the vault door swung open. Inside, the team found a strange, ancient piece of armor. It glowed with an eerie light, and its surface was adorned with symbols Jackson couldn't understand. The armor was unlike anything they had ever seen before. Jackson's heart raced. This was it. This was humanity's hope. The weapon that could stop the Warbringer had been found. But as Jackson stepped forward to inspect it, a chilling thought crossed his mind. Was this truly the weapon that could stop the Warbringer, or was it something far more dangerous than they had imagined? Time was running out. The Warbringer's ship was descending, and Earth's fate rested in their hands. The clock was ticking. As the dust settled in the ancient chamber deep beneath the Earth, Lieutenant Jackson stood frozen in front of the strange armor that glowed with a cold blue light. It wasn't just armor. It felt alive, like it had been waiting for someone, watching from the shadows of time, waiting for the right moment to wake up. No one in the team spoke. The silence wasn't empty. It was heavy, like the room was holding its breath, aware that something was about to change. Jackson stepped forward carefully, every movement slow, every breath loud in the stillness. He reached out a hand toward the armor, unsure whether it would react, break apart, or stay silent. But the moment his fingers brushed its surface, the glow surged brighter, and a deep vibration rumbled through the chamber floor, like the Earth itself had felt the connection. Everyone jumped back, weapons raised, but the armor didn't attack. It simply floated upward, as if drawn by a magnetic pull. And then, without warning, the armor moved, piece by piece, toward Jackson, as if it had chosen him. Sergeant Ramirez shouted for him to step away, but Jackson couldn't move. His body felt locked in place as the pieces hovered in the air, spinning slowly, surrounding him in a glowing circle. Before he could say anything, the armor flew toward him, and in a matter of seconds, it locked into place around his body. The room exploded in light. Screams echoed through the chamber as the armor sealed itself, covering Jackson from head to toe. But he didn't feel pain. Instead, he felt clarity. His vision sharpened, his heartbeat calmed, and a deep voice whispered in his mind. Not in English, but he somehow understood every word. Chosen. At last, a warrior of heart and fire. The Warbringer must fall. The team stared in disbelief. Jackson, ordinary, stubborn Jackson, was now standing tall in armor older than any human nation. The suit didn't just give him protection. It gave him power, strength, knowledge. He could see energy around him, feel the heat of life, sense danger before it came. He had become something else, something more. Corporal Morgan was the first to speak. "Is it controlling you?" Jackson turned his head slowly, the helmet clicking softly. "No," he said, his voice echoing slightly from inside the armor. "It's helping me." The team looked at each other with concern. Ramirez stepped forward. "You need to take it off, Jackson. We don't know what it's doing to your brain. That thing could be ancient alien tech meant to use you." "I know," Jackson said, "but I also know this armor isn't evil. It was made to fight something worse." Before the team could argue further, a loud alarm blared through the facility. A voice crackled over the old speaker system, static-filled and robotic. "Unidentified alien vessel approaching. Defense systems failing. Evacuation recommended." The Warbringer had found them. Jackson turned toward his team. "We don't have time. Get back to the surface. I'll hold him off." "You're not going alone," Zhang shouted. "We came here together, and we fight together." But Jackson stepped forward, raising one armored hand, and with a single wave, created a glowing shield of energy between him and his team. "I have to test what this armor can really do. If I fail, someone needs to warn the world." And with that, the ground above shook as something massive landed near the entrance of the facility. The Warbringer had arrived. Jackson moved faster than humanly possible, blasting up the tunnels, bursting through rock and steel like paper. He reached the surface just as the Warbringer's towering figure emerged from a cloud of smoke. The alien stood nearly 10 feet tall, covered in jagged black armor, its eyes glowing red, its massive weapon crackling with dark energy. The Warbringer tilted its head, confused for the first time in centuries. In front of it stood a human, not with fear, not with trembling, but with power. A power the galaxy hadn't seen in ages. Jackson stood tall. "You've killed enough," he said, voice echoing through the helmet. "This time, you face a warrior who's ready." The Warbringer raised its weapon. Jackson didn't flinch. The first blow came fast, a beam of dark energy that shattered the mountainside behind him. But Jackson moved like lightning, dodging it with ease, his body guided by the armor's ancient wisdom. They clashed, steel against fury, light against darkness. The sky lit up with their battle. And across the planet, people watched. Satellites captured the duel. Soldiers and civilians alike stared at their screens as a single armored figure fought the unstoppable alien god. A new hope had been born. One man, one suit of armor, and a chance to save the world. But this was only the beginning. Because while the Warbringer was shocked by the resistance, others were watching from the shadows of space. And they were not pleased. The clash between Jackson and the Warbringer shook the ground beneath their feet. The alien's weapon, crackling with dark energy, lashed out again, firing another pulse of destructive force. The blast hit the ground just inches from Jackson, sending dirt and debris flying into the air. Yet, Jackson moved with incredible speed, dodging and weaving as though he were one with the battlefield. The alien's strength and size were enormous, but Jackson's agility and precision were unmatched, enhanced by the ancient armor that had chosen him. With every strike, Jackson's confidence grew. The suit he wore was not just a weapon. It was an extension of his own will, amplifying his every movement, guiding his thoughts into battle strategies that were nothing short of genius. He wasn't just fighting the Warbringer. He was testing the very limits of the suit's power. Jackson's eyes glowed with the energy flowing through him, his mind racing with the knowledge the armor had provided him. He understood the Warbringer's weaknesses. He saw through the alien's every move, anticipating each attack before it came. But the Warbringer wasn't a mindless brute. It was a seasoned warrior, and it wasn't going down easily. With a roar, the Warbringer lunged forward, swinging its massive weapon in a wide arc. The blow was so forceful that the air seemed to bend with the force of it. Jackson barely managed to block it with his shield, but the impact sent him skidding backward, his feet tearing through the earth like a storm. He gritted his teeth, but his mind was focused. The armor pulsed, as if urging him to stand and fight back. He couldn't afford to make a mistake. He had to end this battle, and soon. His team was still behind him, waiting, but this fight wasn't just for their survival, it was for the future of humanity. The Warbringer had to fall. The alien charged again, this time with greater speed, its weapon aimed straight at Jackson's chest. But Jackson, drawing on the armor's ancient knowledge, sidestepped the attack, moving faster than the Warbringer could follow. In a fluid motion, he raised his own arm and fired a blast of concentrated energy from the armor's gauntlet. The beam struck the Warbringer's shoulder, sending the massive alien stumbling backward with a cry of pain. Jackson didn't hesitate. He pressed the advantage, launching himself at the Warbringer with renewed fury. His fists, clad in the impenetrable armor, hammered into the alien's chest, each punch leaving cracks in the Warbringer's armor. The alien staggered back, unable to withstand the force of the blows. But the Warbringer wasn't finished yet. With a roar, it unleashed a surge of energy, blasting Jackson off his feet. The shockwave knocked him to the ground. And for a moment, he lay there, dazed and struggling to regain his bearings. The Warbringer loomed over him, its eyes burning with rage. It raised its weapon high, preparing to strike the final blow. Jackson's heart pounded in his chest, but his mind was calm. He couldn't let fear control him. He had to end this now. With a burst of strength, Jackson pushed himself up, using the power of the armor to leap to his feet. The Warbringer's weapon came crashing down, but Jackson met it with his own strength. The two forces collided with an explosive shockwave, throwing dust and debris into the air. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, Jackson's armor glowed brightly, and with one final powerful punch, he broke through the Warbringer's defense, sending the alien crashing to the ground. The Warbringer lay there, motionless, its massive form crumpled under the force of Jackson's attack. The battle was over, but Jackson knew this was just the beginning. He stood tall, breathing heavily, the weight of the battle settling in his bones. He had won, but the victory felt bittersweet. The Warbringer's fall wasn't the end of the war, it was a message. The galaxy had watched, and now they knew what humanity was capable of. But there were others out there, others who might not be as willing to give humanity a chance. As Jackson looked up at the sky, his mind raced. The battle had drawn attention, and now he could feel it, the eyes of the galaxy upon him. The armor had chosen him for a reason. But he wasn't the only one with power. Others, darker forces, would soon come to challenge humanity's rise. And they wouldn't stop until they had crushed it. Back in the command center, the team watched through the monitors, amazed and terrified by what had just transpired. But as they stared at the screen, a chilling message flashed across the screen. Alert. Unknown alien fleet detected. ETA. 72 hours. The war had only just begun. The universe would never forget the day the alien warrior fell to a human. But what the galaxy didn't know was that humanity was just getting started. And soon, they would face an enemy more dangerous than they could imagine. The Warbringer lay silent in the dust. Its massive body, once feared across dozens of star systems, was now broken beneath a sky filled with ash and echoes of battle. Around the world, screens flickered with the image of Jackson standing tall, the mysterious alien armor glowing around him like a second skin. People didn't just cheer, they cried, they screamed, they knelt in awe. For the first time in centuries, humanity had hope that no longer came from politics or peace talks, but from one human who had done the impossible. The footage was shared faster than any video in history. It wasn't just a win. It was a message to the galaxy. We are not your pawns anymore. Jackson had not just defeated a single warrior. He had shattered an ancient fear. Across the stars, Alien species who once believed humans to be primitive now sat in silence, watching the replay over and over again, trying to understand how one man, one human, had destroyed what no army ever could. But in the command centers of the alien elite, those who ruled through fear, slavery, and destruction, the mood was not silent. It was furious. The Council of the Dominion, a hidden alliance of the most powerful alien empires, met in a dark chamber. Holograms buzzed with static as generals, emperors, and warlords from different worlds stared at the still image of Jackson. The Warbringer's defeat had been witnessed by billions. If they allowed this to stand, humanity would become a symbol, an uprising they couldn't stop. "This cannot be allowed," growled one of the reptilian warlords. "That human must be eliminated, and Earth must burn." Another voice spoke, this one calm but filled with hatred. "The armor chose him. That means the legends were true. That means the power has returned. And we were blind to it. The humans are too dangerous now. This is not about war. This is about survival." The Council made its decision in less than 5 minutes. Deploy the Shadow Armada. Wipe Earth clean before others follow their example. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Jackson was still recovering. The armor had fused with his body. It had changed him, not just physically, but mentally. He could feel the energy of ancient machines running through his veins. He could hear whispers, not voices, but memories of the armor's past wearers, warriors who had fallen fighting the same evil that was now returning. Each whisper carried a warning. This is not over. The true war is coming. As Jackson stood near the ruins where he had fought the Warbringer, General Risa approached. Her eyes, once skeptical, now looked at him with full trust. "You're not just a soldier anymore," she said quietly. "You're the spark, the one they'll follow." Jackson shook his head. "I'm just a man in a suit." "No," she said, pointing to the sky. "You're a symbol now, and the galaxy is watching." Suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights flashed. A transmission had been intercepted. The voice, cold and emotionless, played across every screen on Earth. "This planet has broken the laws of submission. You have resisted. Prepare for extinction. The Shadow Armada arrives in 70 hours. The message was followed by coordinates, Earth's, and the unmistakable sound of warships charging up their engines. The enemy was coming, and they were bringing everything. Panic broke out in every corner of the globe. But amidst the chaos, something changed. Humans didn't hide. They united. Countries that once fought over borders now shared their technology. Engineers began working day and night, studying Jackson's armor to create weapons based on its design. Scientists pored over alien databases, unlocking ancient systems that had been hidden beneath Earth's surface for centuries. And soldiers, millions of them, volunteered, not because they had to, but because they believed. Jackson led the effort. He trained, he fought, and he spoke to the world. Not like a king, not like a general, but like a human who refused to kneel. "Let them come," he said, standing before the cameras, the sky behind him dark with the shapes of approaching warships. "They think they can scare us into silence. But we are not afraid. We've seen what they fear now. They fear us, not because of our weapons, but because we never give up. We rise." As Earth prepared for its greatest battle, stories spread throughout the stars. Rebellions started in alien colonies. Slaves began to fight back. And across distant planets, more ancient armors began to glow, sensing the awakening of a new era. Jackson was not the only one anymore. He was the first. The legend of the man who wore alien armor and defeated the unstoppable warrior became a symbol of rebellion across galaxies. And as the enemy fleet approached Earth, Jackson looked to the sky and whispered to himself, "Let the stars remember this day, the day humanity stopped being prey and became the storm." And so, with Earth's forces ready, hope burning in every heart, and the galaxy holding its breath, Humanity stood on the edge of the greatest war ever known. But this time, they wouldn't be fighting alone. This time, they were ready. And Jackson, he was already writing the next chapter of the legend. The human who defied the galaxy was just getting started.